Hello friends, how are you? Welcome to Japan Study Center. Today we are going to see the chapter of geography, and what is our topic today? Work of the running water and the underground water. There is a most important chapter. The also important here the point arrive the three function of the rivers. What is the three function of the river here? There is a most important question. The running water is a river. In fact, the land is a three different bay, and this is known as the three function of a river. There is erosion, transportations, and depositions. Throughout its course, the rivers are display all the three activity to show extent. There is the most important here. Here the most important reason. There is the erosions here. The erosions occur when to the overland flow moves slow particles is a down slope. The weathering and erosions supply this rock material which is the load of river, and this load act as the grading tool. It is thus the help in the cutting the bottom and sides of the river bed, and resulting is a deepening and the weathings of the river channel. Both the cutting and removal of the rock is a deep varies by the river is called the river erosions. The work of river erosion is accomplished in a different ways. All of this is operate together. These four ways are here. The first here is a corrosion and abrasion. The corrosions and abrasions are the most important way here, as the rock particle is a bounce, shark scraps, and the dogs as along to the bottom and sides of the river. They break off the additionally a rock fragment, and this form of erosion is called corrosions. This is the mechanical is the gradings of the rivers against the bank and the bed of the river. Corrosions take place in the two different ways, the lateral corrosions and vertically corrosions. There is a first here lateral corrosions, and this is a side way of erosion which is the buildings the river's valley. And second here vertically is corrosions, and this is the downward erosion which is a depend the river valley. There is a most important. And second here there is a corrosions and or solution. There is the most important here. This is the chemical or solvent action of the water on soluble as partly. There is a soluble rock in which with which is their rivers water come in a contact. For example, limestone or calcium carbonate, when it is a come in contact with the water, it is easily dissolved and removed in a solution. That is the most important for corrosion and solution. The next here hydraulic action. That is the most important. This is the mechanical loosings and the sweepings and the way of the material by the shear force of a river water itself. No load or materials is involved in this process. Some of the water is flashes is against the river bank and the enter into the crack, and the crabs is this is a undermines the sharp rock with the which is come in a contact. It's a pick up the loose fragment from it is a bank and the bed and transport them away. The next stage is attriations. Attriations here, this is the wear and the tear of the transported material is a thin self when they rose and coiled with one to another. In the process, the cohesion is a boundaries and the broken down into the smaller piece. The angular is the edges and the smoothness and rounded to from a pebbles. The next stage is the transportations. There is the most important. River carry rock or particle from one place to another. This activity is known as the transportations of the load by a river. The load is transported in a four-way. There is a four-way is the most important here. The next stage is the traction. There is the most important here. The heavier and the larger rock fragment like a gravel, pebble, etc. are forced by the flow of river to the roll along its bed. And this fragment can be seen a rolling, slappings and is a bumpings and the beginning dragging. This process knows the traction and the load is called the traction load. That is the most important. And the next here saltation. Saltation is the sum of the fragment of the rock move along the bed of steam by the jumpings or bouncing is continuously. This process is called saltation. That is the most important. The next stage is the suspension. The suspension is the most important here. The holding up and a small particle like a sand, salt and the mud by their water as the steams flow is called the suspension. That is the most important here. And the next also important is solution. Solution are part of the rock fragment are dissolved in the river water and the transported. There is the most important and also important their figure that is shown in this diagram, the traction and saltation and suspension, there is the most important. Traction says they are dragging and pushing here, and the second is a saltation, and the show in this diagram, and the suspension is also important. That is important diagram shown in this. The next is deposition. Deposition is also important. When the steams come down from the hill to the plain area, it is slow become a gently. This reduces the energy of the stem. The decreased energy is hampers is the transportation. As a result, part of its load started settling down. This activity is known as the depositions. Depositions take place either due to the decrease in the slope or due to the fall in the volume or velocity of river water. Depositions take place usually in a plain and the low-lying area. When the river joins as a lake or sea, the ball of its load of deposit. The most important topic arrive here, a development of a river valley. There is the most important here. The original and depositionally and the feature of produce or modify by the action of running water may be better understood if we note their stage of through which a stream passes from its source to its mouth. The source of rivers may be lies in the mountainous is regional and the mouth may be meet the sea or lake. The whole path is a flow by a river is called its a course or its a valley. There is the most important. The course of river divided into the three sections. The first here is the upper course of the stage of the youth, and second here the middle course of the stage of majorities, and third here the lower course or the stage of the old age. There is the upper, middle, and the lower are three courses into the which is the river valley in the divided. The next here is the upper courses. The upper course is mountain course begin from the source of the river in a hilly or mountainous area. The river is tumbles down to steep slopes and as a result is a velocity. And the eroding power are at their maximum. The consequently is a valley depending is assumed it is the greatest important at this stage. Normally, weathering also play it is a part on the new surface exposed along the bank of the stem, and the weather is a rock is a material is a carry into the stem partly through the action of gravity and the partly by the rainwater flowing into the river. The weathering help in the weathings of valley at the top given it is a type of V, and shape cross the sections such as the valley are known as the V-shaped valley. Here show the upper, middle and lower course of the river. There is the most important upper course, middle course and lower course. The river arises the high ground and there is a waterfall forming to the vein of rivers planking over stiff and clamp. And the next here is the deltas forming a river mouth and the river meanders across flat plain. Ox box is a lake. There is the most important diagram here shown in this picture. The also important here is a diagram here. Erosion, transportation and deposition. There is a erosion and there is goes based to transportation and deposition is the most important. And also important for the next diagram, there is a V-shaped valley and there is a varying and gently sloping valley and a very well gently sloping valley. There is most important here. There is the gradually long profile of cross section of the river valley from a source of mouth. There is a next diagram is also important. A vertical erosion is a dominant and lateral erosion is a dominant and deposition of the dominant. There is the most important here. If the bad rock is a hardly and resistance, there is a waning of the valley at the top may be not take place and the down cutting process of the vigorous river may lead to the formation of the gorge, a river valley with the almost a vertically sides. In the India, the deep gorges has been to cut by the Brahmaputra and the Indus in their Himalaya. The deep gorges also develop into the limestone regions and in the rock lining in the dry climates. The narrow and very deep gorges are the canyons with the vertically walls is also known as the I-shaped valley. A canyon is a very deep gorge with the steps side running of the hundred of kilometers. And Grand is the canyon of the river is a Colorado in the USA is a some of the more is an outstanding feature that is developed in the upper course of the river is included rapidly, and the cataract is the cascaded and the waterfall here. The next is the middle course. In the middle course, lateral corrosion tend to replace a vertical corrosions. Active corrosion of the bank of bed and the V-shaped valley. The volume of water increasing with the confluence of many tributaries and they are increasing the river as a load. Thus, the work of the river is a predominantly is a transportation with some deposition. The river which is the sweeps and down from the steep mountain valley to be a comparative well at the level and the land drop. There is a load of courses and the sand grab as there is a sudden decreasing in the velocity. The load is deposited is generally assumed a fan-like shape, hence it is called on the Abelin fan. Here show the one important diagram. There will fans here. There is the most important. There is a shape of fan. Sometimes the servo fans made by the another holding steams often until form a continuous plan is known as the predominant and the Abel plan. So called because it is lies at the foot of the mountain. In these sections, even minor octavius force or revert swings in the loops to go round there abstractly, and these loops are called meanders as a term derived from the winding river meanders to the Turkey. The next year, the lower course. There is the most important lower course. The rivers are moving downstream across a road board, and the living plant is heavier with the waves is both down from to the upper and middle course. A vertical corrosion has almost a cases their lateral corrosion still goes on the erodes. It's a bank further. The bulk of the river is mainly deposition building up. It's a bed and forming a extensive flood plain. When its tributary is joined to river and the volume of water increase, course and materials are dropped and the fine slab of coil down to about the mouth of the river. The large city of materials are deposited on the level of bed and the river split into the amazing of channel. Such stem is called to the branded stem. Here show the most important diagram of branded stem. Here there is the most important stem shown in this diagram. During the annual flood, is the large quantities of the sedimentary rock spread over to a low-lying adjacent area. A layer of the sediment in thus the deposited during to each flood are gradually build up their fertilizer and the flood plan. There is the most important fertility flood plan. A rise to rise of the course of material is formed along the each bank of river. Each radius is called to the levels. And here show the diagram. The flood is a plan and the left there is the most important here. A flood plan is a river's level above flood plans. I believe there is the most important here. In the lower course of the river, the meanders is become much more pronounced, and the outer bank and concave bank is the rapidly eroded that the meanders become a almost complete circle. A time is a come when to the river cut through there is a narrow neck of the loop. The meander is now cut from to the main stem take the form of on the ox boy as a lake. There is the most important here a diagram. Here the most important stage in the formation of the ox box lake. There is the most important the loop of here. This take a gradually turning into the snappers as it disappear in the course of time. The neurosis is such as a particularly is a fully filled is a ox ball. The lake are marked at a short distance from the present course of river like a Ganga. Upon the entering a lake or sea, the river is deposits all over the load at the mouth, giving rise to the formation of a delta. The delta is a triangular relief feature with the apex of pointing up to stem and the marked as a fan-shaped area of fine elements, and the Greek letters is a delta. Pronouncing delta is a closely resembles the triangular delta of the river as a Nile. Some delta are extremely large, and the Ganga Brahmaputra delta is the largest delta in the world. Here is the most important formation of the delta. There is the most important. The Nile Delta currents, Nils, and the river Decas and floodplain, Alexandrias and the distributaries, and there is the most important formation of delta here. The following condition favor of the formation of delta here. There is the most important 4-point active or vertically and lateral erosion in the upper course of the river to supply the large amount of sediments. There is the most important. A second here, tideless is a setter coasted, and the next here, shallow sea adjoining the delta, and no strong current is a current at the river mouth which may be a wash away to the sediments. Due to the obstructions as causing by the deposited is aluminum, the river is a discharge. It's a water through a several channel which are called to the is a distributaries. And the some rivers empties into the sea has no deltas, but instead there has have to be shape of the gradually widenings or mouth cuttings deep inland. Such a mouth is called estuary. Their formation of their estuaries is due to the scoring action of the tides and currents. But in most of the case of the original case in the subsidence of the earth as a crust in the area of the outlet. The two west is a flowing river of India, the Narmada and the Tapti do not a form of delta. Their former estuaries is bent to the joint to the Arabian Sea. In the lower course land, a feature produced by the river and meanders. Floodplain is braided to the stems and oxbox is the lake delta and the estuaries. The also important here is the underground water. There is the most important topic. The seepage and the water holding capacity of the rock depend upon its space. If the rock is a porous like is a sandstone, it will be allowed to water to easily pass through it. Such a rock are called to the permeable rock. On the other hand, if the rock are not be porous and do not allow to the water to pass through them, they are called to the impermeable is a rock. However, if there are any crack or joint in such a rock, water may be passed through them. That is the most important for underground water. Here is the part of the rain and snow, the melt water which is the accumulate in the rock after the sweeping and through the surface is called underground water. There is the most important underground water definition. The rock through which is the water can pass easily are called permeable rock. And the rock through which is the water cannot pass through are called impermeable rock. There is a pass easily, there is called to a permeable rock, and is a through there is a pass, is a cannot be passed through, there is a impermeable rock. And third, the amount of the underground water is a varies from the space to another. It is a role in the sappings. The source of features of the earth is a quite important. Most of it is a work is a confined to be a subsurface is area through it is a play on important role on the surface also. Our next topic is the most important here, water table. What is the water table here? The water table is a mark the upper surface of saturated zone of the groundwater where the pores are completely full of water. The zone are horizontal and permeable to the pores rock which are fully filled with the water are called zone of saturation. The upper level of this zone is below which the rock are completely saturated with the water is called to the underground water, the level or the water table. That is the most important here, the water table. The rock of continually underground water is called to the aquifer. The rock is a containing as here underground water is called to the aquifer. The underground is the horizon of porous is a permeable rock which are filled with the water is called zone of saturations. The level of underground water is below which is the rock is fully filled with the water is called the water table. That is the most important here. And the next is types of water table. That is the most important here. The level of the groundwater table away to the fracture and it is never to the same is any area. The level of the water table is controlled by the nature of land surface and the variation in the amount of the rainfall and the character of the underlying rock. The water table is generally higher in the area of high precipitation and also is the area is bordering a river and the lakes. The water table is changes according to the seasons. It is higher in the raining season and the lower during to the summer. On the basis of the availability of the water table is of the two types. The first there is the permanent water table and second here a temporary water table. That is the most important. But the first here permanent water table. The way the water table is stable is static and never fall below to the particular level. It is called to the permanent water table. It is not affected by the seasonal change. Well ducts adapt to the depth provided to the water in all seasons. There is a permeable bell. There show the diagram of permanent water table. There is the most important here. The snow wells and deeps bell. The wet season water table and dry season water table. Permanent zone of saturation, impermeable rock. There is the most important diagram shown there. The second here is a temporary water table. There is the most important here, a temporary water table. This is also known as a seasonal water table. The level at which the water table is there not to be stable. And the keep changing with the season is called temporary water table. It's mean to that during to the wet season, the water table will be higher than it is during the dry season. It is a water table of the wet season that is a temporarily. The well ducts up to this level are not a perennial. There is a dry up to during to the summer season. You might has been to well dry up there during to the summer season and the become is a filly with the water during to the rain season. It is a because such as the well are ducts up to the temporary water table. Here the most important point, the nature of land surface of variation in amount of rainfall and the nature of the rock affect the underground water table of any area. And the second here, the level below to which the water table never fall is called to the permanent water table. And the next here, the water table which is the change with the season is called to the temporarily seasonal water table. The next topic is here the bell, tube bells and the ARTESIAN bell. That is the most important here. You must have seen the bell and the tube bells. There are many made of the hole, ducts and into the earth there is a surface through which is the underground water is driven to the drinking purpose and the aerations. They are added to the body to the mechanically as it is the case of the tube bells or the ducts by the man as it is the case of the well to reach the permanent water table. A special types of well in which the water arises to automatically under its open pressure to surface, either through their natural or man-made hole is called as a ARTESIAN well. The name of ARTESIAN bells being derived from to the provinces of Artesian is the Francis where the first bell of this type was dug. And the containing condition are prerequisite of ARTESIAN well. The first point here is arrangement of the rock. For our ARTESIAN bell, there should be a layer of the permeable rock lining between the two impermeable rock layer. In such a case, water present in the permeable rock does not escape. Here show the most important diagram, ARTESIAN well. That is the most important. Here the impermeable rock and ARTESIAN well. And the cloud rain, there is the most important diagram. The next here is a structure of rock state. That is the most important here. Second condition for the occurrence of ARTESIAN well is that rock must have a sinusoidal or dilated structure. And the next here intake of area of the rock. It is necessary that is a permeable rock should be exposed at the ground surface so that rock can be shocked is rainwater and this is intake area should be sufficiently high so that is enough hydraulic pressure will be developed to force the water upward into the well. There is the most important and the also important here ability of the water. There should be a sufficient amount of precipitations of infiltration of water in the area where the permeable rock is exposed at the surface. Here the important fact, the man made for hole on the earth as a surface through which the groundwater is obtained is called well. That is the most important. A man-made hole on the earth's surface through which the underground water is obtained is called a well. A well is a which water flow out automatically under its open pressure is called ARTESIAN well. The next year, the necessary of conditions are required for the occurrence of ARTESIAN wells, arrangement of the rock, structure of the rock stair, high intake area of the permeable rock, and availability of water. Spring and the glacier. There is the most important topic here. The springs and glacier. Spring and surface is the outflow of the groundwater through on the opening in the rock under is a hydraulic pressure. In such a case, the aquifer is the air exposed at the surface or it underlies and the impermeable rocks. The amount of water in the aquifer depends upon to the amount of rainfall in that area. The landform characteristics and the size of the aquifer here. Here most important diagram show the spring air formation. The spring formation in the cloud, rain, water table, impermeable rock, unpermeable rock and spring. There is a most important diagram here show. The next here is a hot spring. That is the most important here. Sometimes the water that flow out of the spring is hot. Such springs are called hot spring. They generally occur in the area of active or recent as volcanism. In the volcanic region, there is underground water get heated after the coming in the contact with the hot rock or stem. The hot springs are found to the many part of India, especially in the Himalaya and Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh. They also occur in Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, Haryana, and Assam. Manikaram is the Kulli Valley, and Tapani is near of Simla. Jalamukhi is the Kangra, and Swan is the Haryana. Rajgiri and the Sitakund of Jharkhand and the Brahmanath Uttarakhand as have a hot spring. The next here a glacier. A spring emitting hot water and steam is a form of fountain or jet at the regular interval. They are called to the glacier. Their interval is called a glacier. The term glacier has been derived from a Icelandic word is a glacier. In case of glaciers, hot water is ejected to the volcanoically because of the pressure created by a stem. The water does not come out continuously, but it's a flow out of intermittently. The period of between the two emission is sometimes irregular. The best example of glaciers working at the regular interval is all faithful in the Yellowstone. The National Park of USA, which is situated in the Rockies mountain region, its regularity is the occurrence that is a tourist is correct that is a watch by aids. The glaciers are found in the Iceland and the Yellowstone National Park of USA and the northern part of the New Zealand. That is the most important here. Important also here a diagram. Here show the glacier is the most important part here. A ball of gas which is the tied to the eruption and the ground passes containing water. There is a most important diagram in there. The next topic is most important here. A landform produced by the underground water. That is the most important. The landform produced by the underground water. The underground water is also on the agent of the gradation like a surface water. It also does the work of the erosion, transportation and deposition, which result in a formation of the number of picture square through the is a topographically features. Topographical feature is formed by underground water can be seen particularly in the highland composed of the limestone on a large scale. This distributive graphics formed due to the action of the underground water in the limestone region is known as the crustal topograph. The crustal word is the come from to the crust region of Adriatic Sea is a coastal and the Croatians Yugoslavia where is the such a formation and noticeable. This region is made by the limestone rock where the underground water is the most active agent of gradation. Their distributive has a topograph is formed by underground water in the limestone region is called crustotopograph. The mechanical weathering and solution of the limestone in water help the original work of underground water. That is the most important. The topographical feature is created by the work of underground water on the limestones are two types. The first here, topographical feature formed on the surface, like a sinkhole and swell at the hole. The next here, topographically feature of formed underground like a caverns, statistics and still mine. There is the most important here. The first point, sinkhole. A sinkhole is a surface depression in the region of limestone or chalk terrains. Some is a sinkhole are filled with the soil washed from the nearby the hillside, and while the other are the step side is dug holes. They are devolved with the variety of the limestone is a more is acceptable to be solutions and weatherings are where to underground cover near the surface is a capsules. The next area is a swell hole. They are cylindrically is a shape lining underneath the sink holes at some depth in the limestone region. The surface stems is a after entered the silk hole and there is a despair of underground through the swell holes. It is a show because their holes are is connected to the underground caverns on their other side. There is the most important diagram show here a sinkhole on the surface of limestone rock. There is a visual holes at the bottom of funnel shape of is a sinkhole. That is the most important diagram here. The next is a caverns. The caverns are the interconnected to the subterranean act. Is a cavity is the bedrock formed by the corrosions action of the circulating underground water on a limestone. They are found near Dehradun and Uttarakhand and the Almora of common Himalaya. The caves of the Katomoswar as the tables a district of the Bastar is the Chhattisgarh are famous caverns of the India. That is the most important here. And important the funnel shape depression in the limestone region is called sinkhole. A cylindrically shaped tubes lining of underneath the sinkhole are called swan hole. An underground cave formed due to the solvent action of underground water in the limestone region is called cavernous. There is the most important here. The next here, there is a statistics and the stellar mines. There are next topic. There are the major depositional feature forming in the crevice is a limestone regions. The water containing a limestone is a solution. The ship seeps there through the roofs of the crevice in the form of continuously chain of the drop. A potential of the water drops is a peak in for the ceiling get evaporated and a small deposit of the limestone is left behind on the roof. And this process continually and deposit of the limestone grow up downward like a pillars. This beauty from to the called stalactites. Here show the diagram here stalactites and the mine. There is the most important. There is the underground water and well jointed limestone cave, statics, mines and vertical columns of pillar. There is the most important diagram shown here. When the remaining in the potential of the water dropping from the roof of the caverns fall on the floor, a part of it is again evaporated and a small deposit of limestone is left behind. The deposit grow upward from the floor of the canvas. Their types of depositional feature are called stalagmite. As the process grow up, both stalactites and the stalagmite often join together to form a vertical column in the curves. The solidified is a conical depositional feature and the hanging from the curves as a roof is called stalactites. The bottom is a conical pillar developing on the floor of the curves in the limestone region is called stalagmite. There is the most important here.